Hi there. I'm Naomi Kinsman, the Executive Director of Society of Young Inklings, and I'm also an author. And I would love to welcome you today to our Facebook Live session on turning emotion into poetry. Now, when we are thinking about poems, we want to think about how best to make those poems come to life, to really show a certain way that we feel. And when I'm talking with students in classrooms about poetry and trying to explore the differences between poems and stories, often we focus in on this idea of a feeling, of how a poem can really just encapsulate one moment in time or one specific feeling and help you share with someone else how something feels to you. When I say I'm angry or I'm frustrated or I'm excited or I'm surprised, all of those things have a certain idea for me, but the words themselves become abstract. They don't really help me feel the same way as someone else. If someone tells me they're surprised, I can't necessarily feel along with them unless I have a sense of what surprise feels like to them and what surprise feels like in that specific situation. So what we're going to explore today are a few different kinds of emotions. So to get started, kind of warm up our creativity, I'd like for us to brainstorm some different kinds of feelings. And I know that we'll probably start with, happiness and sadness and anger, but I want you right wherever you are to start thinking of what other feelings can you think of, and can we get into the ones that are a little more interesting. If you have some ideas, you can put them in the comment section below, and we're going to keep going and brainstorming. So I said sadness, happiness, frustration, anger. I said surprise. There's disappointment, nervousness, anxiety, frustration. Excellent. How about well, we can have silliness, and we can also have hyper craziness. I see courageous coming through. Excellent. Brave. What else could we talk about? What about a little tiny fear? What kind of feeling is a teeny tiny fear? I feel just a little bit afraid. Nervous, I guess. A little bit tentative, maybe. I'm feeling tentative. I want you to think about other words that might come to mind if we think of really big, happy, delighted feelings. So I feel exuberant. I feel over the top. And even when we start to reach for those exciting emotions or those big emotions, sometimes we don't even know the words. If you are so angry that it feels like steam is going to come out of your ears and you feel like the top of your head is going to blow off, maybe anger, I feel angry isn't enough. Maybe you need to say, I feel furious. I feel infuriated. I feel like I'm going to bubble up and boil over. And you notice how when I get to the really angry or the really excited or the really happy, I start to use images. There's a reason for that. We're trying to figure out ways to really express how we feel. So we're going to think about some small, medium, and big size emotions. I want you to think about, how about a time when you have felt afraid? Now, I'm going to think back to some different moments in my life where I have felt afraid. Up in the California mountains where it's very dry, and we were carrying backpacks with tents because we were going to camp out in this particular park. So we were hiking up this very dry trail with our bags on our bags on our backs, and we were trying to figure out, where are we going to camp, and we were on this adventure. And then I hear a rustling over here in the grasses. Now, every time I hike, I feel a little bit nervous because around here we have mountain lions, so I'm worried that something's going to jump out and surprise me. However, in this particular case, something crept out of the grass, and it was the most giant spider I had ever seen. I feel like the spider was the size of my hand, or it might have even been the size of a dinner plate. It was so giant and enormous, I couldn't even comprehend what I was seeing with my eyes. It was furry and creepy crawly, and it was coming out, and it was sitting on the path. And I'm standing there, and my husband passed by, and he was on the other side of the path, and he said, okay, come on over here. And I'm looking at that spider that's between me and my husband, and we have to pass to get to the where we're headed. And so I need to find a way to get past the spider, but I am convinced that the spider has such strong legs that he can just bend them and jump and land on my head or land on my face, and I'm so afraid. And so I just was paralyzed with fear. Now, what does that kind of fear feel like? If I was to try to explain how that felt with an image, I might think about a tree that is petrified. It's so solid, it's so still that it has become petrified. And so maybe I would think about that kind of image, or maybe I would think about, I'm so afraid. There's this feeling inside of you where it's like the inside of yourself is bubbling and broiling and all this giant storm, but the outside of you is completely still, completely unable to move. So I wonder what it feels like. What image could I use? Maybe like there's a tornado inside of me, but I'm frozen and I'm trying not to explode, right? That feeling. How would I describe it? What would I make it feel? What images could I use? Now, I might feel like a poached egg. I love that. Excellent comment. So let's think about, next up, a different kind of feeling. So we talked about fear. How about a feeling of embarrassment? I had a time when I was younger, when I was in a play. And in this play, I had to wear a clown outfit and a clown wig, and I had to be on roller skates for the song Go, 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 Joseph, which is in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's a musical. And so in this show, it was actually a really spectacular number where everyone was bright and colorful, and we were all on roller skates. And we were in a pretty small theater, and people would vault down these big ramps and jump onto the stage, and we were spinning in this roller skating circle. Now, I was not one of the people vaulting onto the stage because I'm not the strongest roller skater in the world. So I came out from the side and joined on to the spinning wheel. So I join on. We're spinning and spinning and spinning. I'm holding on as tight as I can. There's sort of this crossed hand hold that we have to do, and I'm on the very end. Well, the thing about being on the very end is that you're going the fastest of everybody because the people in the middle of the wheel are kind of slowly turning and people on the end are whizzing around. Well, as I was whizzing, I was holding on as tight as I could, but the person who's holding on to me and I lost grip. And so I flew off the end, and this was during a show. And on the sides of the stage, there were these turning walls that turned. Each one of them, when you turned it, you would see 3 different settings. So the 3 were this way, and then as I hit them, they all spun. So they bounced me from one to the next, and then I went barreling off stage and slammed into the wall because that was the only way I could stop. And I heard people in the outside looking like that or sounding like that. Now, that sort of feeling in the pit of my stomach, thank goodness I was off stage at that point and I couldn't see how people were reacting, but I felt so embarrassed. Like I could just curl up inside of myself and hide for the rest of my life. Now, I wonder what that feels like when I'm feeling that small, when I'm feeling that crushed. I wonder if it feels like gum on the bottom of someone's shoe, or if it feels like, I don't know, like that horrible feeling of soaked wet socks inside of shoes that are all drenched with mud. Lots of different possibilities, right? So we have a printable today that we put together for you. With this printable, we have a top section that has emotions, where you can list some emotions. I give you a couple of mine. And then is like, and then because. So fear is like feeling like a poached egg, because, and then you can add in why that feels that way to you. And some of those specific details from your experiences might really help to inform this. Now, your poems may bring your life experiences into them, or your poems may not. Maybe your poems will use those moments from your life and sort of transform them into fiction so that you can see what another character might do with a situation like that. If I'm thinking about how humiliating it is to be on roller skates and in a clown wig and be thrown off the stage, I wonder what it might feel. How could I turn that into an experience for a character? Maybe a character who's supposed to be good at something. Maybe it's a performing. Maybe it's a show dog who is supposed to be so good at going around the rink, but on one particular day, the dog gets distracted because it smells its very favorite food. He smells bacon in the audience. And so instead of doing what he's supposed to, he bounds out of the ring and he goes and grabs the bacon, only to realize 30 seconds after he's taken off that he was not necessarily supposed to do that, and he looks around and sees that everyone is looking at him, and he droops his ears and he droops his tail and he's feeling so embarrassed. How does he feel? How would we put that into an image? Now, an image can be one image, like a poached egg or a tornado, but it can also be an extended metaphor. It can be a little story. So I felt as embarrassed as if I had been a show dog who ran out of the rink instead of doing what he was supposed to do and barreled after some bacon instead of staying in the rink and winning the show. You can do all sorts of fun things that make your particular images unique to you. And this brings it back to poetry. So at the very bottom of this page, you can turn some of these ideas that you have into poetry. And one of the things that I've had to learn how to do, because I am definitely a narrative artist, I like to write long form, I like to write novels, and poems are not necessarily my first language. What I have to do when I'm about to write a poem is I have to sort of get the whole idea out. I might put it out there in a lot of words, and then I go through and I craft it to really boil it down to the words that matter most. And remember, poems don't have to rhyme, so you don't have to have your lines sort of stacked up with words matched on the ends of each one of your lines. You can take them however you want to go. If you want to write a rhyming poem, you absolutely can, but you can also write a poem that really just expresses a feeling for you. So the last thing I want to say about that is, as you think about your poem, think about where you break each line. Think about how you take a feeling to the end of a line and then you break it to the next one. You might find that you want to say, I felt, just on two words on one line, like I was a piece of soggy, cruddy gum on the bottom of someone's shoe, like one line or one word per line, to just sort of drag that sense of dread all the way through the end of a line. And if you realize after you wrote all of that out, like I did as I just said it, that it's just too many words, too many lines, then you can collapse some of them to make it so that it works better for you. So I hope that these give you some fun tools to play around with as you're thinking about turning emotions into poems. Really think about some of those moments in your life where you felt strong feelings. You might think, nothing interesting happens to me. I don't usually wear a clown wig and go flying off a stage, and maybe you don't, but I bet that you will find that if you think about it, you've had a lot of experiences in your life. You've had a lot of feelings, strong ones. You might have had an adventure outside. You might have been climbing a tree and had something happen. You may have been playing a game with someone. You maybe have been on an adventure, on a vacation. You might have been at school. There's so many different ways that things might have happened in your life. And all you have to do is just tap into those feelings and find ways to express them. We hope that you will enjoy our printable, and we also hope you'll come over to younginklings.org. You can actually join our organization as a member. We have lots of opportunities for you. We have author interviews every month that you can take advantage of, and writing challenges. And we also have many different types of mentorship programs that we would love to tell you more about. So come on over to younginklings.org and check us out. Let us know if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you back here on Tuesday at 2:30 next week. Bye-bye.